Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
There is something that can really be impactful in changing your life, and it's connected to hypnotherapy. Of course, you've heard of hypnotherapy. If you haven't tried it yet, what are you waiting for? If you've waited, add RTT to that, and now you have a super combination to change your relationships, heal from stuff from your past. And we all have stuff that we need to heal from.
Yeah.
You do. I'm telling you. There's an elephant in the room, and that's your trauma from the past. And everybody has something that has happened to them, whether they're aware of it or not, that kind of pilots you. And she can help you out with all of that. And she's fantastic. Raquel Williams is back. Welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Steve. How are you?
Good, good. And when we last left off, we talked about relationships, specifically marriages, and how RTT and hypnotherapy can help you conquer some of those things that are holding you back from having a really great relationship. Before we can get back into that, RTT, explain that, please, for anybody that didn't pick up on it last time.
Sure. Rapid Transformational Therapy is what that stands for. And really, it's a combination of 4 different therapy styles. And I really appreciate it because I feel like there's hypnotherapy, which I've done. And then there's psychotherapy, and then there's NLP and CBT, and there's these different modalities. But really what RTT does is it takes someone full circle. So we're able to deal with the subconscious mind, get to the root of an issue, but then also deal with inner child work, energy work in the body, really taking someone through a process to bring their subconscious programming into alignment with who they are today. Because that's really where the issues lie, Steve, is that we have this programming that we're not aware of. And consciously, we want to be, do, have. We have this vision of life in ourselves that we want to accomplish, but subconsciously, there's a belief system wrapped around those desires that's not letting us get there. So it's so important to understand that programming and how it's affecting our life today.
And that's something when you work with somebody, you can help them figure out. What if you have no idea what's holding you back? And you know that there's something going on there, but you're not sure where it's coming from. You can find that.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times people are just either it's anxiety. It could be a form of depression. It could be anger, like they're just set off so easy, or they're on edge all the time, or they're loners. And they don't understand why they're so uncomfortable in social settings. There's so many different behaviors that people experience. And unfortunately, Steve, they tell themselves that's just the way I am. And it's really not true. There's a reason for the behavior or the feeling or the on edge or the anger or whatever's keeping you from really engaging in social settings or going after your dreams or whatever it is. The list goes on. It's not normal to feel that way or behave that way. But unfortunately, people have just kind of gone, well, it's just the way I am. And it's really not. It's really an indication of something more.
It can even be the reverse of what you just said, where somebody just doesn't want to be in crowds. They're a loner. Could be the other way where somebody is afraid to be alone.
Yes.
That could have happened. Parent left suddenly when they were younger, they were abandoned, whatever it might be. There are all different things here that we're talking about. NLP, we started talking about it last time we got together. I want to circle back to that in a moment, and maybe some things that we can say to ourselves, phrases that we can say using NLP to move us in a more positive direction. Before we get there, though, I want to talk about your background. So how did you get down this road? Didn't you want to be a singer back in the day?
I did. My past life, my old life, I did. More of a songwriter. I mean, I can sing and I can hold my own, but really my strength I always felt was in songwriting. But anyways, yes, I did at one point in my life, but life has a way of taking us in different directions. And how I ended up here was one day I stopped sleeping, Steve. Literally saw the sun come up, and I thought it was a fluke. Like I told my husband, I didn't fall asleep last night. Like I literally all night. And he's thought that was weird. I thought it was weird. I was exhausted, but I figured it was just some weird thing. Next night, couldn't fall asleep. By the fourth night, I'm panicking. I'm trying to get in to see my doctor. And this turned into a 12-year journey for me. And in 12 years, I dealt with horrible insomnia to the point that my body didn't even want to shut down. I couldn't even take a nap during the day because I would not shut down. So I had to go see specialists, be put on medication. Like my insides just went crazy. And then my body started shutting down. So then I started experiencing all different types of symptoms. I lived feeling like I had the flu every day, massive headache. I felt like someone was stabbing the left side of my head on a daily basis. Fibromyalgia, they finally gave me as a title. My back would go out on me so severely. I'd have to go to the emergency room and get a shot, and I'd be on the floor for days. I literally felt like my life was being stolen from me at this point. And it seemed like it happened like that. It seemed like it was all of a sudden, I just wasn't sleeping and my health just went down the tubes.
Where did this come from?
And that is the question. So after years of pursuing Western medicine and trying to get an answer from them, they kept firing me because I wasn't in agreement with what they were saying. They wanted to give me drugs. I didn't want drugs. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't, I said, I'm tired. I don't feel well. I don't need antidepressants. And so they would fire me. I would fire them. It was back and forth. And finally, about the fourth or fifth year, I just fired it all together. And I went towards holistic. And that helped. It helped with the body crashes and the flares and the pain, but it didn't solve the problem. And it did not handle the insomnia. So fast forward, I'm saying a very long story in a very short period of time here, but I realized that I had to become my own advocate. And I just started researching the body, food, energy, the gut, like anything I could get my hands on. And mind you, during this period, I'm a mother of 3. I have a business. Like life doesn't stop for you. So it was a very, very challenging. I feel like I was in boot camp for 12 years and really just got my butt kicked. And at the end of it, one day, after my back going out on me, I went and got an MRI. They scheduled an MRI for me. And I got a phone call, and the doctor says to me that they found a growth, and she wanted to send me to oncology. Now, this is 10 years in, Steve. I have done everything, every program, every herb, every potion, you name it, I did it. Fasting, juicing, no sugar, no carbs, this, that, I did it. Nothing worked. And I get this phone call that they want to send me to oncology. And that was one of those defining moments for me where I lost it. And I thought, really, really? Like after all of this, and you're telling me it could be that? And strangest thing, I had this unction, and I consider myself a very spiritual person. And I feel like I've been led through that whole journey as well. And I had this unction to really get on Netflix. And so I did. And what popped up was a documentary called Heal. I had never seen it before, but I knew instantly I was supposed to watch it. And I did. And I cried through the entire thing because I knew that that was me. And so 10 years later, I'm watching this documentary, and I finally knew or had an idea of what happened to me. So I immediately searched out someone that does this kind of work. He began to work with me. And within 1 week, I started to feel like the pain releasing from my body, that stabbing pain I had on the side of my head. I started to feel a release. And I said, holy shit. Excuse me if I can't say that on here, but like
and it's warranted. It
was like it worked. It was the first time that something worked. And so I went head first. My body started to heal. I started to understand how my trauma had impacted my life and what had happened. I started, my life started to make sense. But most importantly, I got me back. I think I got a better version of me because I learned so much in those 12 years that I couldn't help but want to learn how to do this and help people, because I literally thought at one point that my life wasn't going to go on. And here I am.
What did they find out, or did they? What was the growth, and what treatment did you get? Was it hypnosis, RTT? What did the trick?
So here's the funny thing. This is why doctors don't like me. I never went for them to check that growth. Intuitively, I knew it wasn't cancer. When I watched that documentary, I was just like, that's not it. And I wasn't going to entertain it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went headfirst to what I thought the answer was. And real funny story. A year later, I had to see my doctor for something else. And she's looking at the notes and she's like, Raquel, you never went. And then she stopped and she kind of looked at me up and down and she's like, well, I guess you're fine. And I said, I'm great. And we left it at that.
Somebody who is extremely intuitive, world famous for his intuitiveness, told me decades ago what you just said. You are your best health advocate.
Yeah.
Listen to that. And I've had, even in the last few months, doctors prescribe certain meds for my daughter, and I go with my gut. My gut's always right. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
That's right.
It doesn't make sense. No disrespect.
That's right.
Yeah, maybe we'll circle back to that. And it's been perfectly fine. And there's many, many great doctors, of course, but we put them on this pedestal where whatever they say, do it. Whatever they say, do it. No, you got to do this. You know your body better than anybody else is ever going to. You just
that is such a true statement. You have to go in. And I really believe that was one of the biggest lessons during my 12-year journey that I had to learn, is that my answers weren't out there. Happy wasn't out there. I was always in search of that contract, that deal, because that's what was going to fulfill me. And it was never about that. It was about me understanding what was going on inside of me, that there was a war literally happening inside of me. And it had nothing to do with landing the singing deal or getting that contract or getting on this show. It didn't matter. None of it mattered. Yeah. Because once I worked on Raquel, happy was inside of Raquel. Yeah. And life is so different now. I can see it through such different lenses now. But I think that was my 12 years. Like, that was supposed to happen to me. It was more than a wake up, but it was my journey to wholeness.
Yeah. And so many people say, oh, if I could just win a lottery, a few $1 million, it'll be great. Do you really need that money? Let's be honest. Are you doing okay now? You getting by? Do you have what you need? And most people, unless you're homeless, and much, respect and feelings for those people, but most people would say, yeah, I got what I need. And when you look at the stats, most people who win the lottery, millions of dollars, are miserable, or their lives went from here and they thought it was going to be here. Well, it was for a little bit, right down, because it ruined their lives. Yeah.
Because it's not the answer. I have nothing against money. I love money. Okay. Sure. But it's not the answer. It's not why you're unhappy. It's not why you're unfulfilled. It's not.
Yeah. Because what's it going to do? You, all right. Hey, everybody likes you now because you got a lot of money. It's not real.
No.
It's not real. Amazing story. So how long did it take till you were sleeping well?
So literally within the first month, I went from very broken, hard to fall asleep, wasn't staying asleep, to 4 hours straight. And I remember the first 4 hours that I got, and I felt like $1 million, Steve. Oh my gosh. Today people say 4 hours, that's not enough. Let me tell you, when you've been living off a very broken sleep for years, 4 hours felt like heaven.
Oh, I know. I won't go into detail. I lived a little bit of that. It was for, call it 6 months. It took him that long to figure out what the issue was, but I was up every hour, 24/7. But it got figured out. Was it the NLP and the hypnotherapy that did it for you?
Yes. It was the RTT, it was the hypnotherapy, and it was releasing trauma, emotional trauma from my body. So
Did
the
you know what the trauma
insomnia,
was? Did you know what it was? Did it ever get figured out what that trauma inside
yeah.
you was? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I tell people when they have insomnia, one of two things is happening. Okay. There's either a chemical imbalance or toxicity in the body that needs to be addressed. So it's physical, or the bear's chasing you. And in my case, it was fight or flight. The bear was chasing me.
Did you
And
have lots of thoughts? Like when you would lay down, this, I'm thinking of this, I'm thinking of that. I got to do this tomorrow. I got to do that. I got to do this for my kids. And just like you couldn't quiet it to go to sleep.
yep, racing thoughts. And that is an indication your subconscious is trying to tell you something. That's not normal. I lived for years thinking that was normal. Steve, it's not normal. If your mind won't shut off, there's a reason for that.
Hmm. If somebody came to you with a similar situation, how many sessions? Everybody's different. How many sessions do you think it would take to get them back sleeping pretty well?
That's a great question, because when I first started incorporating hypnotherapy into what I'm doing, because I was so new, I was doing one session and offering one session. And I really learned, I now offer a 12-week program that is very popular because I learned that that was the sweet spot. I learned that three hypnotherapy sessions throughout those 3 months. So we actually have a hypnotherapy session, and then we work on what came up for the next 3 weeks, and then we do it again. And then we do it one more time, and we're peeling back layers. I have found that is where people see a significant amount of change. And people that I've worked with fibromyalgia, I just had a woman that was just, Raquel, you changed my life. I mean, her pain is gone. She's sleeping. She's feeling, so much better about her life. And I don't think it's one session. I think it's a 2 or 3, but I think that 3 months is really a good amount of time when you're dealing with something like that.
Gotcha. Wow. In the time we have left, and what a story. And I know people dealing with what in a different way, but can't sleep because their mind is just all over the place. And every once in a while, we're all like that, just sometimes it happens. But if it's consistent, like you said, your subconscious trying to tell you something. There's something's up that needs to be figured out or addressed. NLP, let's go down that rabbit hole right now. And what is some of the language that we can say to ourselves to move us in a more positive direction?
I just got off a call with someone right before this that I was coaching, and we were talking about how he was trying to tell himself things in a situation to make himself feel better, but he was just feeling worse, right? And I said, that's because you can't lie to yourself. People do affirmations, and they think that this is how they should feel or think. And so they try to impose their thoughts. But when it's not resonating as truth for you, you're not going to receive it. So I tell people that whenever you're in a situation and you know that your thoughts aren't where they need to be, just start very basic. So for instance, if I said to you, I know that, let's say it's diet, right? I know I shouldn't be eating that. I totally blew it yesterday. Now my mind, I'm just beating myself up, and I just keep telling myself I'm losing this weight. I'm right. I'm losing this weight. I'm the weight I want to be, and blah, blah, blah. But you're not feeling it. It's not resonating with you. So I tell people, just start very basic, be very gentle with yourself and say, you know what? I did blow it. And it bothers me that I blew it, and be honest with yourself, right? So I did blow it, and it bugs me. It bugs me a lot, actually. But you know what? It's not the first time I've ever blown it, and I'll probably blow it again, but I'm doing the best that I can. And yeah, it usually works out, and I usually do really well. And then you just very gradually walk yourself into, because you can feel your heart going, yeah. So I did really well last week. I can do that again. Yeah. Right. And you just keep going with what feels real to you. Don't try to force or impose beliefs that you're not feeling. And then you can get to the point where you got yourself back in alignment with yourself. And then those thoughts will start to quiet. That's not necessarily NLP, but that is a trick when you're dealing with your mind and looping thoughts because you're beating yourself up.
I always say we can spot BS. So you internally, us, can spot BS, even your own BS. So if you're trying to tell yourself, it knows everything you need is inside of you. It's right there. You can heal yourself. You do it all. Other stuff gets in the way, unfortunately. And that's where, or why somebody needs to talk with somebody like you to kind of put things in its place and move things where they need to be. But it's all right there. And that's what a gut feeling is. You know the answer.
That's it. It's tapping into your intuition, and it's getting reconnected with yourself, Steve. A lot of what has happened to so many people, and a lot of what does happen is that we disconnect from ourselves. We don't even know who we are. And so when we're disconnected from ourselves, how can you possibly feel that intuition or trust it when you do feel it? So a big thing that I do is help people reconnect with themselves, get to know who they are, understand so that they can trust their intuition, recognize it, trust it, and begin to implement that in their lives.
How do we reach you to start the whole process, no matter what anybody's going through?
My website is Raquel, RAQUEL, rwilliams.com. And I do offer a free consultation. And my number is 415-347-6861.
How'd you sleep last night?
I slept great.
It must be. And when did that resolve itself? How long ago was that?
You know what? It was a process. So immediately I started getting 4 hours and I was in heaven. Like, I was good. If it never changed, I thought this is great. But the more I really dug into what was happening, because it was a process for me too. It wasn't one and done. It was a process of me understanding I had trauma as a little girl. I had trauma at 4 years old that my mind had hidden from me. So I wasn't even aware of that trauma until I went through this process. But see, this bear that was chasing me, that was a big part of it. How do you heal something or change something that you're not even aware is there? See, my mind was protecting me from even knowing that this thing happened.
You can't fix a problem unless you know what the problem is.
Exactly. And that's why I tell people RTT will bring you clarity. You don't have to guess what's happening with you. I'm going to take you down a path where your subconscious mind is going to tell you. There's no guessing. You're going to know and be very clear about what the root cause is of whatever issue we're dealing with.
Like we say, the answer is there. You just need to uncover the answer.
That's it.
Got about a minute left. Really curious about when you were younger, you weren't aware of that trauma that was affecting your life in a very major way. When you did RTT hypnotherapy, did you see it? Did you see yourself as a 4-year-old, and did you believe it? Like, was it something, we don't need to know what it is. That's not, it's irrelevant. But did you look at it and say, there's no way that could have happened to me? Or it's like, yeah, that's all kind of making sense now.
I had visions of moments of that time throughout my life, but I didn't know what it was. So when I saw it, and there was a particular person involved that I always hated and was afraid of, and I didn't even really understand that. And so when it came, it all made sense to me, and I understood, and I knew instantly that that had happened.
Wow. Because you put the pieces together.
Because I put the pieces together, but there was also, Steve, when your mind shows you something like that, and your mind's very gentle, it'll only show you what you can handle. Okay. But when it does bring it up, you can't, it's you showing you. You can't deny that. There was no denying it for me. I knew that was real.
like I said, you can spot BS. That wasn't BS.
No.
That was the real deal. Like literally, we have seconds left. Instant feedback, steve@gmail.com. Lisa is in New Haven, Connecticut, and says, my son is 14 and has self-image issues. Can you work with somebody that age?
Yes. And self-image, just approving and accepting yourself is so big for kids right now. To understand that they matter, that they are seen, that just all that stuff. So I work with body image and self-image, and it's so important. The answer is yes, definitely.
Wow. Great talking with you today. Thank you. I love your transparency. And, for me, and I know about RTT, done hypnotherapy, NLP, all of that, but you made it even seem clearer. It's almost like you took the package and put a bow on it in some regards, hearing your story and how it impacted your life and how you help others. And I got you, in terms of seeing your childhood going through hypnotherapy, kind of what, I knew things, but I didn't have them all put together. And that it's almost as if when I was done, it's like somebody comes in and organizes your room and everything, or a file cabinet, and everything's like, oh, now it's all laid out perfectly. Now I can access it. Now it makes sense. And that's what all of these modalities do. Make sense of your life. So super cool.
And if I could just say this, Steve, before we close,
Sure.
Some people are so scared. They don't want to know. They come to me and they say, I just don't know if I want to know it. I don't know if I can go there. And what I say to those people is, what is the price that you pay if you don't? Because you already know. You might consciously not think you know, but your body knows, your organs know. That's where things manifest in the body, pains in the back, in the knees, arthritis, all these things we think, cancer, lupus, all these things that we think come from somewhere else. There's an emotional component. So I'm going to tell you, you already know. Mm-hmm. You already know.
Yeah. And you're literally, you're beating yourself up, or your body, your subconscious is beating yourself up because it's going, hello, we need to deal with this.
Yes.
You're not going to deal with it. Well, I'm going to manifest in a part of your body, and how's your back feeling?
That's right.
Well, you deal with it. You got to deal.
That's right. You got to deal. That's where addiction comes from. You're trying to soothe something you don't understand.
Yeah. Yep. Good stuff today. And I've never heard it explained quite like the way you're explaining it, and you make it crystal clear. So your website is your name, Raquel,
mm-hmm.
Williams, WILLIMS.com. Free consult, right?
Free consultation. Mm-hmm. RaquelRWilliams.com.
R. Williams. Gotcha. All right. Great talking with you, and look forward next time we get a chance to talk.
Sounds good. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.